All right, number 13. I know it says describe, but let's talk about the equations. So we have, how many equations do we have? How many different pieces do you have? You have 3 different pieces. So we did one of these about 2 weeks ago. I know it seems like it's been forever. It was on our last math workshop, but that's been about 2 weeks since we've done one. All right, so here we go. So I need 2 things when I graph a line. What 2 things do I need? Slope and which intercept? The y-intercept. What's my y-intercept here? It's 1. And what's my slope? How much? 1 over 1, which is just 1. So it's 1x plus 1, right? Then we have to write the interval that that's between. What are the 2 x values that this is between? How much? 2 and 0, but we're going to do the 0 first. So it's 0 and 2. Remember, we write it like that because that means between 0 and 2. All right, let's look at the next one. The next one is this straight flat line right here. All right, so if we have a horizontal line, what's a horizontal line? What's the equation for that? Y equals, and then whatever number, right? What's the number that it's the y equals? Y equals 3, because your slope is 0. And what are the x values that that's between? 7 and 2. We put the 2 first, yep. Put the 2 first. So it's between 2 and 7. Y'all okay so far? Yeah? Ready with me? Can I get this written on your paper? Got a math workshop coming up. Math workshop test in about 2 weeks. So that's coming. Alright, last piece. Last piece, we don't know where the y-intercept is. So if we don't know where the y-intercept is, we have to write it a little bit differently. We had to use the parentheses. Do y'all remember using the parentheses? Okay. We got to find the slope first. So what's the slope between these? Negative 2 over, how much? 3. Very good. I just can't hear you. All right. Now, if the number was inside, inside means it moved left and right. So here's the point we're starting from. How much to the right from the origin did that move? 7. And if it was inside, you took the opposite sign. So normally moving right would mean to be a plus 7. So we take the opposite sign, would be minus 7. Because you moved from that point, from the origin, you moved right 7. All right, now to that point, if it's outside, that tells you that you moved up and down. So from the origin, how much did that point move up? How many? 3. This one right here. It moved up 3. All right, what are the x values that is between? 7 and 10, because this does not have an arrow. So that means you stopped right there. This is between 7 and 10. Are y'all okay? Yes, sir. You don't have a y-intercept, right? It means it moved up 3 from the origin. So here's the origin right here. Moved up 3. Okay. All right. Then it said describe. So let's describe. So what is? I don't know. Tell me a story about what's happening here. Who's she? Give her a name.
Carla.
Carla. All right. So Carla did what? She ran. Okay. How far did she run?
She ran
2 meters, because between 1 and 3 is 2 meters, right? In how many seconds? In 2 seconds. So she ran, or she rode her bike, or she walked, or she skipped holding hands with a boyfriend. I don't really care what she did, but somehow she got 2 meters in 2 seconds, right? Y'all okay so far? Yeah, because it's from 1 to 3. Yeah, got it? And then what happens here? What'd she do here? She fell. She fell. She fell off her bike, or she fell skipping,
And she scraped her knee.
and she scraped her knee.
She has to
How long did she patch herself up for?
5.
Between 2 seconds and 7 seconds is 5 seconds. So she stopped and did something for 5 seconds. Okay.
Tied her shoe.
She tied her shoe. I like that better. She petted a puppy or something besides falling. I don't really like that's ugly and dark. So, no, she did not fall on a puppy. No, that's horrible. Do not say that. All right. So then, what did she do here? What's this part say?
She went and ran back the way she came.
She ran back. How do you know she went back the way she came? Because
it's the same amount.
there you go. It started back at the same point. So she went back. And how long did it take her to go? How many meters?
3 seconds to go.
3 seconds to go. How many? It's from, that's 3, and this is 1. So it took her 3 seconds to go 2 meters. So it took her longer, right? It took her longer to get home. She took the back way home. Y'all know how y'all are. You want to get there real fast, but you don't want to get home as fast, right?
Wait, who knows 1 meter?
It's not real life. It's just, I want to make sure you know what's happening on the graph. I didn't have enough room to do anything else. All right, last one, number 14. Last one. So you got this girl named Kimmy, and you got this girl named Carla, right? And Kimmy says that these two, this graph and these points, are the same line. But Carla says, girl, you wrong. That's not the same thing. So, who's right? Who? Carla? Okay. Kimmy? So, how could we prove which one's right?
We can put the points on the graph.
Okay, we can put the points on the graph. So this would be 0, -1 here. And then 1, 1 would be here. 2, 3 would be here. And 3, 5 would be way up here. They look like the same line, right? How else could we prove, because that's only just a few points.
You could ask for the rate of change.
Ooh, what's the rate of change here? What's the rate of change here?
Down 2 over 1.
Don't say over.
Okay.
It's 2, up 2, and right 1, which is +1, which is 2, right? Correct? Should I say? How do I find the rate of change on a table? What's change mean? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Subtract. So you're going to subtract these two. Be -1 minus 1. And then I would do 0 minus 1. Which is still +2, right? But I have to have two things that I have to check on the graph. I need slope and the y-intercept. What's the y-intercept over here? -1. And anytime you hear that word intercept, what's the number that you're thinking about with intercept? What number? 0. Look right here. You see the 0? Where's the y-intercept on this guy? -1. So do they have the same slope and the same y-intercept? Yes. So who's right? Kimmy is correct. Because, please spell out the word because. It's not B/C. You're not texting. You're getting yourself ready to go to college and better your life.
Because the rate of change is the same.
Because the rate of change is the same, and what else is the same? The y-intercept. There you go. So because the rate of change and the y-intercept are the same. Alright, and then we're going to put that up. And we're going to do our checkpoint. Checkpoints are open notes, but they are not open neighbor. If you were not here Friday, I surely hope that you watched the video to get yourself made up. If not, you'll have to do your checkpoint later. Alright, while you're doing that, I'm going to hand back your quizzes and some homeworks. all it wants to do is graph it. You're finished. We're on page 27. On page 27, once you finish. About 1 minute left and then we're going to be over. Finish it up. If you're not finished, go ahead and put it in the tray. And everybody needs to have a graphing calculator. So if you haven't gotten a graphing calculator yet, go ahead and grab one of those as well. Put your checkpoints in the tray. Make sure your name's on it. Everybody, go put your checkpoints in the tray. And if you don't have a graphing calculator yet, please grab a graphing calculator on your way back to your seat. All right, and we are on page 27. All right, so you have your quizzes in front of you. How long do you have to do quiz corrections? 1 week. You have 1 week to do quiz corrections. And what do you have to do first before you do quiz corrections? You go to tutoring, right? All right, so let's look at the first problems of your quiz. The first problems, there were 3 sections, right? All of those were 2 points apiece. Those were 2 points apiece. So you got a check mark, that means you get all your points. Number 2, those were 3 points apiece. Those were 3 points apiece. Remember, add them up, make sure I didn't miss one, okay? And that last one on the front page, number 3, that was 6 points. So add them all up, make sure you get the right answer, okay? Make sure it gives you that number at the bottom, okay? Add them all up. So it should be 2, 3, 6. All right, and then flip over on the back. All right, that first one, number 4, was 6 points. And that next one, number 5, was 8 points. So it's 6 points and 8 points. Add them up. Make sure you get the number at the bottom. If you have a specific question, let me know. If not, if you want to do corrections, I'll see you during 0 period tutoring, okay? So if you're finished, go ahead and put it in the tray. If you have a question, let me know. Last chance to get a graphical calculator, okay?
You want to do corrections?
No? Okay.
Alright, so when you plug it in, right here, you're plugging in -1. You should have option. I think you may have subtracted them or tried to add them or something. So you should, that's one thing you did your slope right. That's why I just put the X right here on my starting point. And then on this one, when you plug in -1, you should get -2 minus 1. It should be -3. So it should make out the same thing. So it's just the X on the starting point. Okay.
Y'all okay? Any other questions?
Yes, sir. You want to do corrections? You want to do corrections? Okay. So, it's just that starting point that you did wrong. When you plug that in, that should be -2 minus 1. Should be -3. And the X value should be not 0. I'm not sure where you got 0. This was all 0 somewhere around here. If you plug in 0, you get this was all 0. Those were 20. You have one starting point. You just want to do this. I don't know if you I realize I yeah, but you get it at -3. Yeah.
All right, here we go. So do you remember, like 2 weeks ago, when we did parent functions? There were 5 of them. Y'all remember all those? Yeah? No? Are y'all with me? Come on. All right, here we go. So we are not going to do the first definition. I'm not worried about that one. The one I'm worried about is a parent function is the simplest of the functions, okay? So it's the one that doesn't get moved up, it doesn't get moved down, doesn't get moved left, and it doesn't get moved right. It's just a simple, regular, ordinary one. So the first parent function we're going to talk about is the constant function. And what do you notice the graph looks like? It's a straight line, okay? It's a horizontal line. Or it could be a vertical line. All right, now the identity. We didn't call it the identity function when we did these on Math Workshop. Do you remember what we called it? It started with an L. Linear, very good. I want you to know both of them. Make sure you know both words, okay? So what do you notice is different about a constant function versus a linear function? What's the difference? They're both straight lines.
Yeah, but
Linear has a slope, very good. And there's only going to be one more we're going to talk about in this unit. The rest of them we're going to pull in later, okay? And it's the absolute value function. Do you remember what the equation of absolute value is for the parent?
Y equals X.
Not x squared, no. Y equals absolute value of x. And what's the picture look like? It makes a V. Very good. Makes a V graph. Alright, just for giggles, because we're going to be bringing these other ones in later. There were 3 other ones that we talked about. Can you remember one of them? There was an x squared. Yep. And that is called a parabola. And what's the picture look like?
Yeah.
It's a U. Yep.
What's the one that's like half of it?
That's the one, next one. Rational one was another one. Yep. But the square root was next. And it was a parabola turned sideways, but we could only use the top piece. Why could we only use the top piece? There you go. You cannot square root the negatives down here at the bottom yet. We can't do that yet. And that was just a square root. And then the last one Madison told us was a rational function. And that was the 1 over x. Are these bringing back some memories? Yeah. And that was funky looking. Do you remember what? Yep. It was this little piece in the first quadrant. In the third quadrant, yep. The only 3 that we're going to deal with are the 3 that are on your notes. We just needed to go back over these to make sure we were okay. Alright, so look right here. Let's look at our learning targets for the day. We have 2 learning targets for today. So, what's the very first one that we're about to do? We're going to identify them, right? Okay. And then what are we going to do? We're going to describe and graph them. Are you all okay with that so far? Alright, so first thing we're going to do is identify. Look at the very first one. It's a V-shaped graph. So, that's absolute value, and that's all you have to do. Easy enough, right? What about number 2? It's a constant because it's a horizontal line. And the last one, well, I want you to know both of them. Identity / linear. Very good. Make sure you know both of them. Because sometimes they'll use the word identity. Sometimes they'll use the word linear. Okay? Y'all good to go? Alright, let's move to our next learning target. Our next learning target is going to be to describe and graph. So we need to go over some rules. If you have 2 different colored pens or 2 different colored highlighters, it is going to help you on this. Alright, we've already talked about these, but we're going to talk about them again. And we're going to talk about them in good detail this time. So let's look at those first 2. All of these are translations, okay? Alright, so here we go. Where do you notice that the H's are located? Where are they at? Are they on the inside of the parentheses or on the outside of the parentheses? They're on the inside, right? So remember, when we have the inside, we take the opposite sign might help you to write these notes down. Alright, and if it's on the inside, we take the opposite sign, but which way do we move? Left and right. Very good. So if it's on the inside, you take the opposite sign, and you move left and right. Ready, okay? Alright, take your different color. Bless you. Alright, let's look at the next 2 types of translations. The next 2 types of translations, where is the letter located this time? On the outside. And if it's on the outside, we take the same sign. and it's going to move up and down. Alright, then we're going to talk about reflections. The second reflection you can mark out because you're going to learn that in pre-calc, okay? The second reflection you can mark out because we're going to learn that in pre-calc. Mark out the second. We're not going to do that one. Alright, so let's look at this. If we have a reflection, we know we have a reflection because we have this negative sign where? Out where? Outside where? Where's it at? In the front. There you go. So we have a negative in front. And where does that tell us that it's going to reflect? The x-axis. It's very important to know these rules. Because if you don't know these rules when you get to pre-cal, it's going to be very, very difficult because they're going to build off these same rules, okay? All right, and then the very last thing that we're going to talk about, so we did translations, we did reflections, and now we are going to talk about dilations. Huh? Yes, it's going to either going to stretch it vertically or compress it. Either stretch or compress. So, basically, I just say stretch each time because it means the same thing. So instead of saying compresses vertically, you can say stretches horizontally. It's the same thing, though. All right, so look right here. When you say the word dilation, what operation are they using? Multiplication. So you have multiplication. Ooh, can't spell that. And that's what we're going to look at on these. Are y'all okay? Alright, so I know that you are very visual learners. So this is what we're going to use our calculators for. We're going to use them we're going to use the rules first, but then I want you to graph them so that you can actually see what happens. But we're not graphing them yet because most of you don't even know how to graph some of these yet. So we hold our horses. And way down there at the bottom is number 1, okay? Alright, now I have... Well, I did have. What happened? Why is it not? Hold on, guys. I just printed a whole bunch of these off, and now it's not. They're not there. All right, I have a whole bunch of these paper calculators that you can highlight and do different things on, so you can see what we did. I've got a few of them right here, and I've got some more printing off. Does anybody want one of these so they can make some notes and stuff? All right, come on. Let me get these other ones. I don't know why it didn't print. Will you hand those out for me, Danielle, so I can get these other ones pulled up? So the very first thing that it says to do is what? Name the parent function, right? So what's the parent function for this? Absolute value. And I also want you to give me the equation. What's the equation for the parent function? Beautiful. Alright, so our learning target told us that we're going to describe. Describe means tell me what happened. So what happened from your parent function, that's the original one, what did the plus 4 transform this graph into? What did it do? They've always been a V. It went where, Madison? 4 units up. Very good. So we moved up 4. Y'all okay? Alright, now take those 2 colors. If you have a paper printout of your calculator, take those 2 colors and let's do this calculator. You ready? Alright, so where do we go on our calculator to make it graph something? And no, it's not the word graph because we've got to do something first. We went to y equals, right? So if you've got your paper calculator, you might want to highlight the y equals, which most of you know that by now. But here's the new thing. Here's the new thing. Find your math button. That's what we're going to push first. It's right below the green button, okay? Push the math button. If you've got your paper copy, you might want to highlight where it says math so that you know what we're doing. Might want y equals first, and then we hit math. Y'all okay so far? All right, from there, we're going to hit the right arrow button because we need to go over the number. So you're going to hit the right arrow button. And what's the very first thing that pops up when you hit that? ABS, which stands for absolute value. Now, there are two things that could pop up. If yours is updated like mine, it will actually put the absolute value bars in. Does anybody have one that just has the letters ABS so that I can show everybody? You got one, Danielle? Can I borrow it, please? All right, so Danielle has one like this. So you should have one of the two. Are y'all okay? Yes, no, maybe? All right, so the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to type in our parent function. Here you go, Danielle. What was our parent function? X. Remember, X was right next to the green button. Now, if you have one like Danielle's, you're going to close your parentheses. If you have one like mine, you're going to hit the right arrow button. You see how it jumped out of the absolute values? All right, but do not hit any graphs. Do not hit graph. Because now we need to graph the transformation. What was the transformation? Absolute value of X plus 4. So we're going to go through it again. We're going to go to math. We're going to go over to number. Hopefully you're doing this in your calculator. You're going to hit enter. And then we're going to hit X. Now this is important. If you have one like mine, you must hit the right arrow button before you hit plus 4. If you have one like Danielle's, you must close the parentheses before you hit plus 4. If not, you're telling your calculator wrong, so it's going to graph wrong. Does anybody need help?
What was the step after equals the parentheses?
Equals a parentheses.
You close the parentheses.
Oh, and then plus 4? That's what it says next. Anybody else have a question? Madison, what's wrong? Where? So you hit the X button right here. And then you either hit the right arrow button or you close your parentheses. Is yours like mine? No, it looks like the ABS. So you close your parentheses and then hit plus 4. All right, anybody else? So Anna, what's yours say? So it says ABS. Then you didn't go to math. You have to go to math and go over to number and hit enter. Got it? Okay, and then you do hit the right arrow button and then hit plus 4. Okay. Anybody else have any issues? All right. No, they're going to be the same thing. Yeah. All right, now when we hit graph, the very first thing that you're going to see is the parent function, which starts with the origin, right? The second thing that you're going to see is the transformation. So what happened? Where did it go? It went up 4. Are y'all visual? Do you see how it works? What's wrong? Are y'all okay?
I just showed the transformation.
Did you graph both of them? And that's why.
No, graph both of them.
Did you graph them both? That's the parent graph. Everybody see the X on the top? Alright, y'all okay? Math off? Alright, let's flip to the next page. Here we go. Put your calculator to the side for a second. Let's go to the next one. Alright, so let's do all the absolute value ones first, okay? That way we can keep doing the same thing in our calculator. So let's skip 2 for just a minute, and let's go to number 3. Now, number 3, no calculators whatsoever. No calculators. You have to know how to do this. Put your calculators down. Quit pressing buttons. Grab your pencil. Put your calculator away. Alright, here we go. Look at the 3. Where's the 3 at? It's on the inside. So the inside tells us to move which directions? Left or right. and we have to take the opposite sign. So positive 3 normally tells me to move to the right, correct? But you got to take the opposite, so that means we're going to go move left. There you go. How many? 3 places, 3 units. There you go. What was the parent function? Absolute value. Write the word first. And it's y equals absolute value of x. Are y'all okay so far? You have to know the rules. Do not use your calculator. The only reason you're getting to use your calculator is because we missed 2 days for a storm. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be using our calculators yet, okay? All right, so grab your calculator. Go to y equals. Do not clear the first one. Do not clear the first one. Hit the down button and clear the second one, because you want to keep your parent graph. All right, what do? How do we graph absolute values? Math.
And then press the
Yeah. And then press enter, right? Now look, this is important. You have to hit the x plus 3. Then you hit the right arrow button or close your parentheses. The 3 has to stay inside, okay? And then you hit graph. And the first one should be your parent graph. And then the next one should be your transformation. So what happened from your parent graph? Where did it move? Left. Are y'all okay? Anybody confused? All right. We're going to skip 4 for just a minute, and we're going to go to 5, okay? So put your calculators away for a second. Calculators down. No punching any numbers. Grab your pencil. All right. Skip 4, and let's go to 5. What is this guy in the very, very front? Negative in the front tells you what? Reflection where?
over the x-axis.
There you go. I keep forgetting to write the parent function first. Parent function is absolute value, which is y equals absolute value of x. And what is this minus 2 in the back? Tell me.
You're gonna move to the left.
No, it's on the outside.
Oh,
You're going to move down 2. Yep. No calculators yet. No calculators yet. All right, if you have your paper calculator, grab it for a second. If you have your paper calculator, grab it. I want you to make a note to yourself. You ready? If you have your paper calculator, I want you to somehow or another tell me a note, tell yourself a note about this negative sign right here. You ready? So highlight it or circle it or do something. The only time you use this button, is if the negative is in the very, very, very front. The only time you use that button is when the negative is in the very, very front. Okay, y'all good? All right, here we go. So we have a negative in the very, very front. So we're going to hit that button all the way down here at the bottom and hit the negative button. Got your calculators? You're in y equals? Got it in your hands? You're pushing the buttons with us? Come on, guys, you're in pre-AP. I shouldn't have to tell you that. All right, then what's right after that? Negative.
yeah.
Absolute value. So we're going to hit math, over to number, hit enter. What's the only thing inside there, guys? The x. All right, now it's very important that you listen to this next piece, okay? You either have to hit the right arrow button or close your parentheses next. All right, that negative right here, that is not the negative down here. Because remember, the only time we use this is when it's in the very front. It's subtract 2. You have to hit the subtract button. Now look at the difference. Do you see the difference in the size of that negative in the very front versus that subtraction with the 2? Do you see the difference between the two? Yeah, this one's a little bit higher up. All right, now if you tell, guys, your calculator is only as smart as what you tell it to do. So if you type in something wrong, it's going to like wig out and not know what to do. Or it's going to just graph it wrong. So hit graph. That's the parent graph. And we already know that it should move down 2 and reflect over the x-axis. Did it do that? Are y'all okay? Yeah? Y'all awake today? Hello? Y'all with me? Well, are y'all dead today? What's wrong with y'all? Alright, you can mark out 7. We're not going to do 7. Alright, let's look at number 6. There's 3 things that happen on number 6 because there's 3 numbers. Yes, ma'am. Sure? Okay. Alright, I'll fix it in a minute. Alright, what 3 numbers do you see? 1/5. Alright, let's start with that one. What is the 1/5 doing to the absolute values? Is it adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? It's multiplying. And when you're multiplying, what was that word that we were going to use? Dilation. Very good. So we had a dilation of 1/5, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. Let's look at the picture, because it makes it easier when you look at the picture. So we're going to talk about that one in a minute. What about this guy? Take the opposite sign.
You're going to go right.
You're going to move right 1. When it's inside, you have to take the opposite sign. All right, and last one, +3. You're going to move up 3. Very good. And we did not write our apparent function, y'all. I'm being horrible at that today. Absolute value, which is y equals absolute value of x. All right, so let's grab our calculators. Okay, so don't put the first one. The first one is your parent function. All right, how do we type in fractions? Parentheses 1 divided by 5, right? Yeah, I could teach you the fraction button now, but it's so much easier just to still do it this way, okay? It's just so much easier. Then what's right after the 1/5? Absolute value, so go to math, over to number, and then absolute value. All right, that negative with the 1, he is not in the front. So I'm going to hit x, subtract 1. Hit the subtract button right here, okay? All right, now it's very important that you either hit the right arrow button after the 1 or you close your parentheses after the 1. Then you hit +3. All right, then hit graph. And this one's funky. All right, there's your parent graph. Hold on, wait for it. It's almost a straight line, right? Almost. The vertex looks like it's about right here. Okay? Did it move right 1? And did it move up 3? Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's about right here. Are y'all okay so far? All right, so let's look at this. Let me do my fan line impression for you up here. Okay, you got the parent graph that looks like this, right? And then from there, what did it do? Where did it get stretched? Which way?
Down.
Not down. Vertical or horizontal? Horizontal, because you were here, and then it got stretched this way. Y'all okay with that? Okay, so what is the 1/5, the dilation of 1/5? What does that mean? Stretched where? Horizontally. Ooh, I can't spell. Stretched. Good grief, let me just start back over. Okay? Okay, so we did our learning target that said identify parent graphs. We did our learning target that said describe parent graphs. And now, the very last thing we're going to do is what? We're going to graph them. No calculators. No calculators. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to graph this one together real quick, and then your homework is going to be the other one. So, what does this +3 inside tell me to do? Don't say over. Left, right? And then remember how we do this. We go up 1 and right 1 on both sides. You just go up 1, right 1. All right, homework tonight is next page, 2, 3, 4. And then use your graphing calculator to make sure you have the same answers. Please don't leave until you have my calculators put up. Y'all have an awesome day, and I will see you tomorrow.